Game na. Start na kayo, guys.
British invasion. The British conquest of the Spanish Philippines occurred between 1762 and 1764. Although the only part of the Philippines which the British actually occupied was the Spanish colonial capital Manila, with the principal Spanish naval port Cavite, both on Manila Bay. Why did the British came? The occupation was sustained the largest 7 years war between Britain and France, which Spain had recently entered on the side of the French. The British wanted to use Manila as an entrepot for trade in the region, particularly with China. Part of the 7 Years' War between British and France. France was supported by the Spain. The British used this way as an excuse to invade the Philippines and colonize it. Next na.
Arrival of the British invaders. The British invasion of the Philippines was planned from India by the British East India Company. The war led by two generals and commander, Admiral Samuel Cornish, General William Draper. Britain planned an invasion of Manila with four storeships, 3 frigates, 8 ships of the line, and 10,300 men. The invasion force sailed from India and anchored in Manila Bay on September 23, 1762, not expecting the European war to come to the Philippines. The 9,356 Spanish and Filipino defenders were caught off guard, outnumbered, and unprepared. The Spaniards enlisted the help of native Kapampangan warriors to resist the British invasion. The fighting was fierce with the British firing more than 5,000 bombs and 20,000 cannonballs on the city. Spanish resistance did not last long, and a formal surrender ended the hostilities on October 6. The greatest Spanish fortress in the Western Pacific capitulated after just 2 weeks. Next.
Surrender of Manila to the British. That time the British conquered Manila, a map depicting the British attack on Manila. The Spanish defeat resulted in the sacking and pillaging of Manila. Houses and buildings were pillaged and burned. People were killed, tortured, and raped, and countless treasures were lost or destroyed. Not even the churches of the archbishopric in Manila were spared from the violence. To spare the city from further destruction, the British demanded a ransom of our 4 million Mexican silver dollars, which acting governor and general Archbishop Manuel Rojo del Rio Guayabera agreed to preventing for the loss of life. With the help of the Kapampangan Spanish forces related from Manila to Bacolor, Pampanga, where they established a new colonial capital there, the Spanish organized a resistance to contain the British invasion. An army of over 10,000, most of the natives, was raised for this cause. Although they lacked sufficient modern weapons, resistance forces managed to keep British confined to Manila and Cavite. The Spanish defeat was also a turning point for the Spanish Empire. It showed that Spain was no longer the dominant world power that it once was. The Spanish vulnerability invalided many uprisings against Spanish occupation, including an ill-fated revolt by national hero couple, Diego and Gabriela Silang, the Sultan of Sulu, a former Islamic state that controlled island in the present day, southern Philippine Island and northeastern Borneo, was also freed from Spanish imprisonment during British occupation. He aligned with the British against the Spanish and increased pirate raids by the Sultanate of Sulu against the Spanish colonies. Next.
End of British invasion. The British were unable to capitalize further on their conquest since the 7 Years' War ended with the Treaty of Paris on February 10, 1763. That said, use of the peace agreement did not reach the Philippines until early 1764. The British ended their occupation, departing Manila and Cavite in the first week of April 1764. Over a century later, the Filipino nationalist and vocal opponent of Spanish occupation, Jose Rizal is commonly known as the father of Filipino nationalism, and the first Filipino, not because he had established an independent Philippine state. In fact, he specifically and implicitly denounced the 1896 revolution against Spain, but because he was instrumental in the creation of conceptualization of Filipino as an ethnopolitical collective as a Filipino, or in the language of nationalism, the people. In other words, Rizal is acclaimed the father of Philippine nationalism for his intellectual and idealistic support of the Philippine independence. Next. Historical values. The British opened the Philippines to the outside world. The defeat of the Spaniards by the British invaders destroyed the image of Spanish proper. The British introduced the English language and free local elections in the Philippines. The British brought their lively music and dances. Some social costumes and dress came from the British. The British founded the first Masonic lodge in the Philippines. Next.
Silang Revolt, 1762 by 1763. Arguably, one of the most famous revolt in the Philippine history is the Silang Revolts from 1762 to 1763, led by the couple of Diego and unlike the other revolts. This revolt took of Manila on December 14, 1762. Diego Silang declared the independence of Ilocandia, naming the state Free Ilocos, and proclaimed vegan capital this newly independent state in the Spanish. However, Silang was killed on May 28, 1763 by Miguel Bicos and friend of Silang. The Spanish authorities to his death in the arms of his wife, Gabriela. She continued their husband struggle, earning the title Joan and the Ark of the Ilocos because of her many victories in battle. The battles of Silang Revolt are a prime example of the use of divide et impera. Since Spanish troops largely used Kapampangan soldiers to fight the Ilocanos. Eventually, the revolt ended with the defeat of Ilocanos. Gabriela Silang was executed by Spanish authorities in Bigan on September 10, kaingay nyo, 1763. Next slide. Diego Silang, Aldana, Andaya, December 16, 1730, May 28, 1763, was Filipino revolutionary leader who allied British force to overthrow Spanish rule in the northern Philippines and establish an independent Ilocano state. This revolt was fueled by Liberans stemming from Spanish taxation and abuses, and by his belief in self-government that the administration and the leadership of Roman Catholic Church and government in the Ilocos be invested the trade Ilocano officials. He met an ethnic woman with the name of Gabriela Carino, later known as Gabriela Silang. Thank you. Next song.
Palaris Revolt. The Palaris Revolt took place in the year 1762 to 1765 in Pangasinan, Philippines, led by Juan de la Cruz Palaris of Binalatongan, also known as San Carlos City. San Carlos City, as it is today, is in a new location. The transfer was effected after the Palaris Revolt. C. Cortez, Rosario Mendoza, Pangasinan, 1572-1800. Little is known of the personal circumstances of De La Cruz, except that he was educated in Binalatongan and was orphaned in his teens. He then moved to Manila and worked as the coachman of the Spanish official Francisco Enriquez de Villacorta, a member of the Audiencia Real, which served as the privy council of the Governor General who governed the Philippines. Palaris Revolt became known as the second wave of the Pangasinenses resistance against Spain. First wave as an initiated by Andres Malong decades earlier. The lore of the amputee layag that came to be known across Pangasinan was revived by Palaris. Malong started the first revolt that culminated in the first amputee layag resistance. Juan de la Cruz, also known as Palaris, was a Pangasinan leader in the province of Pangasinan in the Philippines who led a revolt against the colonial authorities during the 8th century. The uprising is known as the Palaris Revolt. After the British invasion of the Philippines during the 7 Years' War, the Spanish colonial government, including Villacorta, had relocated to Bacolor in the province of Pampanga, which was the adjacent to Pangasinan. It was at this time the Principalia of Binalotongan protested that abuses committed by the provincial governor. The town leaders demanded that governor be removed and that colonial government stop collecting taxes since the islands were already under the British. But Governor General Simon de Anda dismissed the demands and the revolt broke out in November 1762. The name of De La Cruz, who began to be known as Palaris, and emerged as one of the leaders of the revolt, along with his brother Colette, Andres Lopez, and Juan de Beraca Constantin. By December, all Spanish officials except the Dominican friars who were in the charge of the Catholic mission had left Pangasinan. The Spanish colonial government had to deal with the British invaders and the simultaneous Silang revolt, led by Diego Silang in the neighboring province of Ilocos in the south. The present-day province of La Union was still part of Pangasinan and Ilocos. At the Battle of Agno, he faced on March 1, 1763, Spanish forces under the command of Alfonso de Araya, who led a composite troop of Spanish soldiers and Indians foiled Spain. Araya withdrew after losing with much of his Indio loyalties.
Tapos na ba?